Everybody here right now that's here loves their country.
Yes.
USA! USA! USA!
USA! USA! USA! USA! USA!
I've been to DC and I saw a million patriots come in to stand strong for their country. Imagine what we could do together. 2022 is coming up soon. It's time for every last one of us to run.
Yes.
And when I say this, people go, I don't want to get into politics. I don't want to run. I don't want to be demonized. I don't want to be in the middle of it. You know what? Do you want your country? I want my country back.
What's going on, America? This is Oliver Mack, the right-winged angel, and I have another very special guest. So please give the guy a round of applause, I should say. A round of applause by hitting that like button. We got Cunningham in the house. What's going on, my brother?
How you doing? Doing good. I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Glad to have you on the show. So before we get started, I wanted to kind of have you introduce yourself to the audience, tell them how you got started and what you're working on right now.
If you guys haven't met me before, I go by Cunningham on social media platforms. I'm based in Southern California. Started off obviously in politics from 18, but first hit the more of a public stage during the 2020 election back in Los Angeles, California. Was able to meet this brother right here in DC at the Back to Blue event. Ever since then, we had a couple podcasts, You Ain't Black, numerous different projects, and right now I'm glad to be on the show with my man. I've talked to him before. I met him before, but I've never been able to talk to him like this, so I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. Now, we got a little bit of a controversial topic to talk about today, but I know it's been kind of dividing the conservative movement. And I know you've been pretty vocal about it, and some other people have been pretty vocal about it. And there's some people that are losing subscribers, losing followers behind this topic. And, there was an interview that was done by Candace Owens, and she interviewed our former president, Donald Trump. And there was a very controversial moment in that interview where Trump's talking about, the potion, and Candace is giving her stance on it, and then Trump is kind of rebutting her stance. And, there's some things that were said, and this actually went viral among a lot of liberal sites. And they were saying that Trump made Candace Owens look bad and whatever, but I mean, I don't believe that. So we'll start talking about that, and I want Kick to kind of give his insight and his input, because I know he does a lot of research on these things. And so what do you think about what happened with Candace Owens and Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, I didn't see the full interview, but based on the clips that I've seen, I mean, it was a good interview, but I could tell the frustration. I won't put anybody's words in anybody's mouth, but I feel like maybe the audience saw the frustration that maybe Candace Owens had.
Yeah.
But I think it's the frustration that everybody has, Americans in general. Right. I feel like there's a lot of tension in America when it comes to whether or not what can be put in your body or not. The argument's sake is that, we do have freedom of choice, but the argument is that for public health safety, a little bit of pressure or mandates have to be involved. Moving forward, I mean, one thing that we really need to understand is that do we feel pressured, or is it a choice? And by all means, from people that I talk to and from my own personal experience, it doesn't feel like a choice. Yeah. And so when we look to our leaders to lead, guide, and direct us, we want to know if you're going to support freedom of not freedom of speech, but freedom of choice to put in your own body. And I feel like when you have a certain platform and millions of people listen to you, I feel like you have to give that to them, some type of hope that they have a freedom of choice. Now, rhetoric being said, if you say, I believe that mandate shouldn't be allowed, that's rhetoric. I do understand that, and I hope you would. But when people are feeling pressured every day with their jobs, with their family, in order to either make ends meet with their family, or um, what type of new jobs that they're going to do. Because I mean, now they're talking about employers from all different sectors. I mean, even if your employer now requires it or not, what about the next employer? What about 2 years down the road? I know that there's Disney right now. They forced for putting it on their employees, doubled back and said just future employees. That's
Mm.
another form of pressure.
Yep.
So during that interview, I just felt like a lot of Americans were frustrated, and that's what I saw in that interview.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I believe I myself was frustrated with what he was saying. I believe that some of the rhetoric that was coming out of his mouth about the potion, kind of would lead the Democrats to have more ammunition in terms of mandating this thing, right? Because if Trump's saying, and I don't know if you've heard this, but he said that basically the people who are in the hospital that are sickest are the people who are unpotioned, right?
Mhm.
So if you're saying that the people who are unpotioned are the ones that are sick, then they would also be the ones that are spreading it. So you're putting out medical information, in my opinion, telling people that, well, if you're unpoked, then you're going to end up in the hospital. You're going to end up sick. You're going to end up spreading it. When we all know that that's not the case. We all know that there are millions and millions of people out there who received the potion and still got, the thing that we don't want to talk about. But they still received it, and they still got sick. They still ended up in the hospital, and some of them still ended up dying. So how can we say that? How can we spew that rhetoric and say that the only people that are in hospital are the people who don't have it, who don't have
Well,
the potion, right?
you make a good point, because there are side effects. There are times where the process is that these things need to be approved, and it takes years to approve.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the argument right now, is that this doesn't have time. This one specifically, this potion specifically, it didn't have the time to go through the proper channels to actually get approved, right? At least
Yeah.
what we know, as of what we know now.
Right.
We don't know what could happen behind the scenes necessarily, but and to not only mandate it, but look at our leaders and say, well, we expect you to lead, guide, and direct us in a certain direction. And
Mm-hmm.
you come from a position where one side of the leadership wants to mandate it for not on your employers, but I mean, we've seen different parts of the world, different countries, where it's getting to
Yeah.
a certain point that will have less freedoms, that you can't even go to a grocery store. Notice that the one thing that they don't touch when it comes to showing proof to go into enter restaurants, buildings, clubs, things like that, is that they don't touch the grocery stores
Oh, of
here in the
course
United
not.
States.
Right.
Right, because that's when people start to really speak up. That's
Right.
when the pressure gets put up. But you notice in other countries, they actually have those restrictions in grocery stores. Why?
Yeah.
There's only one common denominator. They're not fully equipped and armed like the United States is,
Oh,
and that's the
absolutely.
difference.
Right.
So I'm the reason why I think that me personally, I'm not saying, because a lot of people would say that you pushing back on Trump's rhetoric is anti-Trump. No, by all means, no. There's
Mm-mm.
we need to apply pressure on all of our leaders, regardless of who they are. And the 2024
Facts.
election is not for the next 3 years, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's 2022. So 2024 is about almost 2 years now. So
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot of time, and for the fact that people don't like other supporters to push back and actually talk about the fact that what he's saying is actually harmful to the rhetoric that he's doing is actually not only harmful for people's health, but harmful for the argument's sake. It actually cripples our argument to say that
Right.
this does not need to be out in the public to be mandated. But two, we have one, let's say, government entities or leaders. We have mom, right, which is Biden, saying you have to
Mm-hmm.
have it. And then you have your other parent saying, well, you don't have to take it, but I recommend you take it. That's a tactic that parents use for their children. At the end, you're going to end up taking it. Well, it's good cop, bad cop. And I don't
Yeah.
like that. I don't like it at all.
Yeah. You said it. you may have one parent that's saying, well, we recommend you take it, but he's also saying, well, we recommend you take it because if you don't take it, you're going to end up sick in the hospital. If you don't take it, you're going to end up spreading it. So you're
And
basically
he's not a medical professional either.
right. Well, yeah. Aren't we told that we shouldn't be listening to people who aren't medical professionals? What happened when Joe Rogan came out and talked about his treatment? We were told, no, don't listen to him. He's out here spewing medical misinformation. But it's just, he received a treatment that worked for him. And that's something that we should be looking into, right? If
Hey,
something worked, then we should hear about it.
hey, I've gotten the bug, right? I personally
Yeah.
have gotten the bug. And I took other treatments. And I'm not going to say here on the platform, but you already know, you've heard them before,
Yeah.
even with Joe Rogan. And I was good within 3 days. So why
3 days?
do I need
Wow.
to take one, right? Yeah, no, I was
Yeah.
done within. I was feeling a lot better within like 3 days, and that's the true story. But
Yeah.
and now I have to face that maybe, just maybe, they're just rumors right now, but even with my employer, that I'm probably possibly going to have to make that choice, and that's just
Wow.
rumors coming around that other people have talked to, the human resources department. So when I hear the argument that, well, Trump's about freedom of choice, he's
Mhm.
letting you get the choice to actually say yes or no. Well, there is no yes or no. That's the
Right.
point. That is the point of the argument. So for people to say that, and I've heard this before too, that he has to, and I do agree with it, right? I do agree that yes, he did have to pull out the potion, right? Because I do believe that, not only just the Democrats, but just establishment itself would have said, if you don't have a solution to a problem during the time of last year,
Mhm.
then we could have stayed locked down for a long time. It could have been longer than what it was. That argument, I understand. And so I understand up until this point right now, where you are possibly thinking of an election, getting reelected. And another argument would be, he has to continue the rhetoric up until election because people will attack him if he's anti-potion, right? Well, I never said for him to be anti-potion. He can easily say, yeah, I created a solution. It was a great
Yeah.
job, done and over with. But when he says the words, I recommend you take it, I have a problem with that. I have a problem with, I recommend that you take it, because me personally, I've had family members in my own family that's had reactions and, passed away because of
Wow.
same topics we're talking about today.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear
So
that, man.
so when you actually talk about these specific topics and you've never gone through it or you've never experienced it, then it changes the perspective a little bit. So my opinion might be a little biased, but I have the right to say no. And right now, I don't feel like I could say no. The people that are around me feel like they can't say no. So when he
Mhm.
says the words, I recommend, I have a big problem with that.
Yeah. And what about when he said that if he was still president, he wouldn't have to mandate it because people would take it? I kind of had a problem with that because he's basically saying, well, people are going to follow me no matter what. And we're showing that that's not the case. We're showing that we're free thinkers for a reason. So that means that we won't just follow someone because he's supposed to be our quote unquote leader. We have our own thoughts and ideas for ourselves. But when he said that, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way because he's like, oh, well, they're just going to blindly follow me anyway, just because I'm Trump. What did you think about that?
No, no. You know what? When it comes to this, because I rather listen to medical professionals. I'm not going to speak about it right now, but there's
Yeah.
a medical professional right now by the last name Malone, that was actually taken down on a certain platform,
Mhm.
for speaking on the fact that his background is actually in the specific topic that we're talking about with regards to the potion, the actual quality of the potion. And he's been speaking
Okay.
out, had multiple videos coming out about how he perceives if you should or should not take that potion.
Yeah.
And not only has he been deplatformed, but for the most part, what he's saying is very accurate. And what he's saying is in the video that he showed that caused him to be put on it. I believe he might be on Joe Rogan, but don't quote me on that.
Mhm.
I mean, he's credible. I mean, you can easily Wikipedia him, and even Wikipedia, it shows that that he was actually one of the main inventors of said potion. So I rather
Wow.
listen to people like that in regards to putting something in my body rather than any politician, regardless of who they are.
Right. Now, I've been vocal about, my disagreements with Donald Trump. I know other conservative influencers have been vocal about their disagreements with Donald Trump, and I know you have. Have you received any backlash for that?
Yeah, of course. But you know what? Oddly enough, a lot of people might not realize that there's a lot more people that feel the exact same way. They just can't say it. And that's the reason
Yeah.
why I like to do polls, because polls will show you where people truly feel and truly lie.
Hmm.
And with that, when you actually ask people in the sheer of confidence, or the fact that you're not going to show who they are and they actually
Right.
feel like that their answer will be confidential, they'll truly show you your true colors, and they'll tell you that no, I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So I've gotten a
Right.
lot of great feedback, but most importantly, the negative connotations or the negative viewpoints, every single one is the same talking point.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I really want to get across, that the negative is all one same talking point, that he has to do what he has to do. Well, I understand in the Machiavellian way of you have to do what you have to do in the name of politics, but I only put that in the perspective of an infrastructure bill,
Hmm.
or a stimulus bill, or something to get the freeway moving, right? But when it comes to people's health and lives, that's where I draw the line. And that's where I feel like politics should never come into the aspect of people's health. And that's where I draw the line.
Right. Well, it kind of feels like, that's part of the problem in terms of when you have people that have a certain opinion and they won't speak up about it. I think that put us in a bad position, even with the election, that people have these opinions, but they're afraid to speak up, whether it be they feel like they're going to get canceled from conservatives or they feel like they're going to get canceled from the left. Um, do you think that's a problem that people, they have this opinion that maybe they feel is a different opinion than the majority of conservatives, so they feel like they don't want to say anything? Do you think that's a problem?
Yeah, I think it is a problem. I mean, at the same time, I mean, you remember back when you're in high school and college, right? It's the peer pressure of
Yeah.
your opinions. If you want to be the cool kid on the block or the one that sits at the table,
Right.
it just comes right back to that what do you call it? That childhood type of psychological opinion about yourself and what others perceive you as. And it really
Hmm.
just takes a hand group full of people that really just don't care, and for them to speak up and actually say that this is not right. And once when we say it's not right, then it gives the cover for other people to say the exact same way that I explained that a lot of people, regardless of controversial opinions that may push the envelope, they
Hmm.
actually say, the majority, 60%, say, no, I agree with you 110%. Thank God you're saying it, because I
Yeah.
can't say it, or I fear like people don't understand my point of view. Thank God. And that's all it takes. That's literally all it takes. So, I mean, for the most part, being canceled, I mean, that's literally what we're supposed to preach against, is not being afraid of being canceled. So
Right.
if we're not afraid of being canceled by any one side or people, then why should we be afraid of being canceled of our own?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But I definitely know it happens. I definitely know there are a lot of conservatives or people who call themselves conservatives that hear a different opinion from theirs and they want to decide to cancel that person. If you say anything negatively about Donald Trump, anything negatively about any other conservative influencer that they feel is at the top of the totem pole, then they will basically cancel you. But I feel like
There,
we should, no, go ahead.
I was going to say there's a difference between attacking people and just simply speaking out about something that you disagree with. Like if
Right.
you attack somebody because of, which I never really got the understanding of, attacking somebody thinking that you're going to get ahead or something. But of course, but if you're literally speaking out on what you believe, then there
Hmm.
should be a safe, not safe space, because I want to go away from that word, but
Yeah.
there should be a sense of, I mean, I understand where you're coming from and I'm okay with it. I mean, we
Right.
literally preach that certain sides are yelling and screaming, don't understand how to debate or understand people's viewpoints. So then why don't we do the same?
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of times people on our side can act just like people on the other side. It's a tribalism that I see, and this tribalism has come out a lot with this situation with Trump. That people have decided, well, my tribe is a tribe that will follow Trump no matter what he does. If he if he says that he believes everyone should get mandated, there's part of that tribe who believe that they'll stick with them no matter what. And you know, all leaders should be challenged. All leaders, we need to question them on the things that they say, and make sure that they're representing us the right way, because I think this rhetoric can be dangerous. I
Yeah.
really think that it can be dangerous, and it can help Democrats do the things that we're so worried about, mandating everyone, and making your life a living hell if you don't comply. Like, that's the type of stuff that Democrats are trying to do. I mean, you see it in New York, and you see it in your state, California, that they're trying to say, hey, well, you can't do anything unless you get the potion. And I'm like, well, Trump is basically saying,
Take
yeah, I
it.
mean, yeah,
I
yeah,
recommend
take
it.
it. Right. Right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Look at the people who don't have it. Look what's happening to them. So you should
They're
do
fine.
it.
There's no reactions. There's nothing. They're safe. They're fine. And I
Yeah.
guess it's from people that, don't live in Democrat states like California, New York. But I mean, you see it. You see the pressure. And I feel it. A lot of people of us feel it. People in Southern California feel it. And so
Yeah.
that's, I guess the perception is a little different, when it's compared to living in, a more freer state rather than more that are controlled, then you start to feel the pressure. I mean, there's so many times I feel like leaving California myself, like looking around, like, why am I still here?
I
But
think you should, bro.
exactly. But the naive Tay of me literally says, no, stay here, keep doing what you can do. But I mean, it's
I got
it's
a
a lot
friend
of
of mine that
pressure.
just I got a friend of mine that just left for Florida. So
Yeah.
yeah, people are making that move.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm gonna I have a backup plan to get out of California. I don't mean like literally transfer tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's all good. But yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit. So, how are things in California? Is there anything specific that you can point to, any instances that you can point to, that just to tell people how bad it really is?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Nothing really comes to mind right now. I mean, to be honest with you, I that would be a question for someone else, because I literally stay away from every single pocket that I could possibly find. I actually moved out of, I'm in my own red county, my own conservative county, where I don't have to deal with
Okay.
it. But and I stay away from Los Angeles as much as I can. So I couldn't tell you a specific incident, because I kind of keep to myself.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could see on the news. I mean, I got a friend that lives in Los Angeles, and he's telling me how bad it is, where people are literally, I mean, crime's getting so bad that criminals are actually dressing up as I don't think it was law enforcement, security guards, and
Really?
different types of things. It's getting out of hand. It really is.
Wow. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's a
That's
hard
why I
one for
stay
me.
away from LA.
Well, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. But I guess it's like, in Texas, I don't live in any of the Democrat cities in Texas. I live in the suburbs, but when I do have to go to Houston for work or anything like that, it's a totally different state. You have everyone with their mask on. You have everyone that's talking about the potion and these mandates and different things like that. So yeah, it's definitely different, and that's probably how it is for you in your red area. It's probably doesn't really feel like California, but once you venture out into the Democrat cities, and you get all the Democrat policies. I guess some people were saying, like, once the recall was over, like Gavin Newsom was on a rampage or something like that. Did you feel any of that?
Yeah. I mean, there's new bills coming out right now that I was actually been researching. I haven't read through it, but last time I checked, we got AB 455 still on the back burner,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to mandate actually through the state. Biden says that he can't do it federally, or he's trying to do it federally, but I mean, like we all know, the states can have their own authority to do things. There are a lot of events coming up in the new year.
Yeah.
Obviously, I just got done talking to somebody about that right now.
Mm-hmm.
But the new year is going to be interesting, because we have a lot of bills that are on the back burner and a lot of new bills coming in right now. That's
Yeah.
one of the things I was looking at yesterday before I got distracted. So I don't know exactly which bills are coming out. I just know right now about 455 is still in the back burner, but we'll see,
Mhm.
because for the most part, after the recall, he literally dodged a bullet, and now he's out for revenge.
Yeah.
And we're gonna find out sooner. At the end of the day, I mean, what happens when you have a Democrat-led state legislator? At the end of the day, it's just gonna get rammed through. Whatever he has, he's gonna just ram through. So it's unfortunate. It was one shot, one chance, but that's what happens when you're deep in that system.
Yeah. So what do you think happened with the recall? Do you believe, like some people were saying the Republicans didn't come out to vote, or people were saying that the Democrats were just, I mean, it wasn't going to happen anyway because it's a Democrat state. So what do you think happened with that whole recall?
I think that we didn't have enough boots on the ground. I think that there was a mixture of people not coming out to vote, but we did have a good amount of turnout votes. I do believe that there was something. I don't know, because I didn't go thoroughly through the research to even comment on that, but I do know,
Hmm.
based on his votes that he got compared to the votes that he got in the previous election, it just doesn't make sense. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to speculate on that. Um, but I mean, again, if our side was a little more organized and strategical, which I've always talked about,
Hmm.
and I've been talking about this with a few of my friends and others, that we are not organized enough. And that's the problem, because all last year, well, I mean, all this year until the new year, that's literally what I was doing. I stepped away from a lot of events and protests to actually go into the city council, to go into the Republican committees on both Los Angeles, Orange County, the county I'm currently in right now.
Hmm.
And there's so many gatekeepers. I mean, there's so many gatekeepers to where I did my own research, and we're coming up and I'm talking to other people of other organizations. Shout out to
Yeah.
Lexit, by the way.
Hmm.
That I showed them the actual list of the gatekeepers that we should approach. And
Yeah.
just on the website alone, they don't even have the information. The information's not even available. So you go
Wow.
through every single county in California on the Republican side, and you're trying to at least get to the gatekeepers. And of course, you meet them in, committee meetings and things like that. When you actually get there and go to the sign in on the emails and actually go to them, they're usually like once a month on like a end of a Thursday or something like that, and you get to meet these people. You go on the website, you can't even find their phone number, their office address, their name. And these are the
Hmm.
people that we're supposed to talk to about our in our county or in our city, and they're not even publicized. And that's how bad it is. That's
Yeah.
literally how bad it is. And I mean, catch 22, I understand it's California. I mean, it's more read by Democrats. I can kind of understand that. But that's what I feel what happened in the election. I feel like no one was organized enough. There was no one to knock on doors to educate people the difference when people turn on the news and they see either vote yes or vote no, and they just base their opinion on what they see on TV instead of someone knocking on the door, like a lot of these Democrat-led cities, right? Knocking on people's door and saying, "Are you going to vote no? Are you going to
Hmm.
vote no? This is why you need to vote no." There wasn't, none of us were knocking on doors. None of us were organized enough to actually knock on doors and say, this is why you need to vote yes on the recall. And I think that was the problem. And not a lot of people were educated enough. Yeah, some people didn't turn out. It could have turned out better. Yeah, the numbers were a little off, but most importantly, yeah, it was just because we weren't organized enough, like we usually aren't. Like we aren't. We never are. State by state, certain states are more organized than others, but for the most part in California, we're not. We're non-existent.
Wow. So do you think that the RNC is just basically giving up on certain states and certain areas to say, well, that's Democrat and we're not going to fight that,
I
instead of
would
just going out? Go ahead.
no, I wouldn't say that any organization gives up necessarily, but I do believe in strategy, right? If you're
Yeah.
going to finish if you're going to focus on all your time and energy and money into one specific area, and you know that you're
Hmm.
not going to win, well, then obviously you're not going to spend all your time, money, and energy. You're going to focus a little more on something that's a little more attainable, right?
Right.
Um, so I wouldn't necessarily say that they just abandon, like Republicans abandon California. I wouldn't say that necessarily. I feel it. I mean, people in California feel like they do, right?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, I mean, are you really going to run to how hard is it going to be able to affect an election in California and New York when you're on the opposite side? It's very hard. So would you show your research? And then also this is adds into the same aspect, is that if you actually had boots on the ground, actually showed that you had support, not going and doing, which again, protests are always great and always wonderful, right? I'm not saying anything negative about protesting because it's needed and it's the First Amendment. But if you actually showed organizations that you were organized and you actually had the commitment and the boots on the ground, well, then maybe they would, right, spend the time, the money, the resources to help you out. So I think that's really what the issue was with the recall.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I've seen you guys out there, like your boots on the ground, definitely, and I would just hope that the RNC would see the energy that's in California with the conservative movement and say, hey, well, if we can't afford to do this, at least we can put our money into investing into the people who are on the ground, investing into the people in the organizations, the small organizations that'll definitely help them out. Now, I wish they would do that because there's pockets of conservatives in blue areas that have high energy, that are motivated, that'll get out there and change a lot of minds, or just back some events that they're doing. Like if a group like Lexic decides to do an event in California, like just have the RNC just back it, throw a little bit of money behind it so it can make it even bigger, so they can reach more people. But I don't really see things like that.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. And I mean, I've been talking about it for a while, not publicly, but with people that I know, and I just saw too many gatekeepers, and I was just at this point, you could try your best, but you're only one person, and when you're yelling at the bleachers, about, hey, this is the route, and it kind of falls on deaf ears. It's like, okay, well, I mean, let's just. Oh, well, I mean, it is what it is, but that's the problem, though, is organization. At the end of the day, it's organization. That's the main point. We can't focus on, oh, they did this, they did that. If we're not organized ourselves, we can't blame the other side for anything.
Right. So where do you see 2022 going for the midterms?
A lot of seats are going to flip red, but if something doesn't happen in the meantime, if something doesn't happen in the meantime, I believe that there's a lot of people, just like how you're saying in Southern California, you saw it in Southern California. Well, I think that's a lot of spots in the United States and a lot of states seeing what happened, very frustrated, ready to go, ready to take action. And that's what I mean by action, right? By organizing, organizational skills. And I do believe that that there's going to be a lot of seats that are going to be flipped and could be flipped. But again, it just depends on any circumstances, like back in when, do you remember the Yellow Jackets in Britain prior to 2020? It was a huge movement where they started getting bigger and bigger, where they knew every Saturday come to the same area, and it got really big. But a big event like 2020, when we had to close down our businesses and our shops and things like that, that just disappeared. I've not seen the Yellow Jacket ever since. So now moving forward into the winter season, the hysteria of the winter season, the hysteria that there is no more flu season, pretty much. And I fear that there could be something to distract us again, because I don't think that the what do you call it, the structure or the establishment or whatever you call it, just the people that are in charge right now, I think they're anticipating a wave. I anticipate that they know that people are fed up, and in order to combat that, they need something else to distract. When you're looking at one thing on one hand, you do a sleight of hand on the other. It's a simple confusion. So unless something happens, I think that would be good for the 2022.
Yeah. And what kind of role do you see Donald Trump playing in that?
I believe he's going to play a huge role in that. I do believe that if no distractions happen, he would be in the forefront, leading and directing the people to be sponsored and to be endorsed for those seats. And he would be a huge factor in 2022.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem I have with, I guess the MAGA movement right now is everyone just gets behind Donald Trump. Like all the energy is behind Donald Trump. When he throws a rally, it's like all the conservatives just go to that rally. But if there's another event, then the conservatives really don't go. So it's like all the energy, everything is behind Donald Trump. And I just think it's not a good idea to put so much energy into one person, because if that one person has a slip up or does something, then all the energy is gone.
It's like putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right, right. And I think that's kind of what we're doing right now. And I just hope there were more people that people would get behind. So that way we would have Donald Trump, we would have this person, we would have that person, and we have these pockets of all this energy getting behind not just one person, but a multitude of people. So that way we spread it out. And if something does happen with Donald Trump, then we have these other people that are leading the movement. So what do you think about that?
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
and again, these types of conversations to people that don't have any open, what do you call it? Just an open mind to different diverse ideas. We think that this is an anti-Trump idea. No, we're not saying that at all. You have to have a multitude of different diverse ideas. And I do believe that, yeah, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Well, that might deter or not put enough effort into well, you got to understand that we don't know what the future holds. And at this point, we have only 2022 and 2024. And I'm quite frankly, to be honest with you, I feel like they're moving at such a rapid pace that in the next 2 years, anything to happen. I don't know what's going to happen in 2024. I really don't. I'm looking towards tomorrow and the next day and, next week. That's what I'm looking towards, because the new year, and this is a good point too, is that a lot of bills and a lot of legislation get passed within these holiday seasons. It happens all the time in our history. It's going back to,
because we're not paying attention.
Exactly. Just going back to the 1930s with the Federal Reserve Act. I mean, that was literally passed in Christmas. So, and that literally changes the banking system as we know. So, I mean, we got a lot of time and a lot of space to fill before we even think about 2024. So when you have statements like, we don't like this rhetoric, we need to push back and hold people's feet to the fire, it's so that people correct their language before 2024. And we have plenty of time to do it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So if Trump is a candidate in 2024, does he have your vote?
As of right now, with that rhetoric, and if another candidate comes up with different rhetoric, a little harder stance on the rhetoric, I'm going to consider maybe not. I don't know. That future holds, right? Because again, this is not a all size fits all right now, because people are losing their jobs. People don't have the choice, right? The firefighters in Los Angeles and the police department, they don't have a choice, right? So as of right now, if we apply pressure and his rhetoric changes, of course I'd vote for Trump. Of course, I'm 110%. But at this current stage, when he's spinning this rhetoric, I have to sit back and I have to pull back and be like, wait a minute. Because if there's a candidate that's coming out and literally saying, well, I mean, I don't like it at all, and here's the side effects, and here's this, and here's that, I'm gonna be like, wait. I want to listen to this guy one quick second because I want to know what he's talking about, right? But for the most part, if it was held in 2024, and a lot can happen by then, if his rhetoric changes, of course I'd vote for Trump. I did before, I'll do it again.
Absolutely. Cool. All right, man. We'll wrap it up right here. Before we go, I want you to let people know where they can find you and give your last words.
No, just Kit Cunningham on all platforms. Thank you for having me. And for the most part, also on YouTube. Check me out on YouTube as well, just starting the new YouTube channel. So hopefully you'll find me. You can Google it. Link's probably in the description. So I'll see you soon.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate each and every one of you. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it out to your family and friends so they can know what's going on. All right. Well, we'll catch you in the next video. Peace.